Hey everybody, in light of Valentine's Day being right around the corner, we're going to talk about love and money, but specifically an idea that you can take and use with your spouse or your partner to help grow not only your wealth together, but build your relationship together at the same time.
Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, where we talk about the human side of money. Join us as we dive beyond the numbers, unpacking the psychology of money to equip you with the tools you need to be wise in wealth.
I'm Brendan Frazier, Chief Behavioral Officer at RFG Advisory, and let's start by looking at some eye-opening but not shocking numbers and research around couples and money. 73% of married couples say that finances are a significant source of tension. Money fights are the second leading cause of divorce in relationships. But on a more positive note, couples who have regular financial conversations are twice as likely to report being in a happy relationship. The reality is that money is one of the primary sources of tension in relationships. And our natural tendency is to put it off and not deal with it and not address it until a problem arises. Oftentimes, we approach these conversations about money with our partner begrudgingly. We do it because we feel like we need to. Or if you're like a lot of people, you have the meeting on your calendar, it says finances, you know you're supposed to sit down and have the conversation with your spouse or with your partner, but when the time comes around, you decide to do something else instead. Anything else other than having a stressful conversation about money with your spouse or your partner. But here's some good news. There's an idea that we're going to talk about that will allow you to have fun with these money conversations, that'll make them less stressful and actually bring you closer together. It's called a money date. So let's talk about how you can start implementing a money date by focusing on two things: the feel and then the format. And it's really important to make sure you get the feel right. How you approach these money dates, these money conversations, is just as important as what you talk about in the conversation. So first and foremost, you want to give this a fun, enjoyable name. It may sound like a small thing, and it is, but it's a minor thing that makes a big difference. So you want to give it a fun name and then put it on your calendar for the same time every week, every month, every quarter, whatever frequency you decide is right for you. So what are some examples of fun names? Here are a few that I've heard. One would be just calling it a money date. So you can put it on your calendar as a money date. Another one is a money walk. And so instead of sitting in a room with your computer, you get outside, you go on a walk, and you talk about money and your finances. Or you might have mocha and money. Or you sit down with your favorite coffee on a certain morning and you talk about your money and your finances with your favorite cup of coffee. The name of the game there is to find a way to make it fun and enjoyable and something that you'll look forward to. But more than anything, once you make it fun, the key is how you approach the conversation with the other person. You have to go into the mindset of understanding over judgment. There's no room for judgment in these conversations. Seek to understand the other person's viewpoint and where they're coming from, and try to avoid judging any of the things that they say or do, or any spending decisions that may have been made in the past that you can't go back and erase now moving forward. So that's the feel, but what about the format? Once it's on the calendar, you have a name for it. What are you supposed to actually do during these conversations? How can you make them fun and not stressful and actually grow closer together? First thing you want to think about is the time that you give it. Ideally, you'd probably block out 30 minutes because you don't want to make it a big thing. You want to make it feel approachable. It's easier to think I'm going to follow through on something that takes 30 minutes than something that takes an hour. So try 30 minutes, but if you need more time, put it on there for 45. That way you can go a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. Here are 4 steps to guide the conversation in the right direction. Number 1, set a positive tone right out of the gate. And you can do that by just simply sitting down and asking a question like, what did we do well last month? What did you do well last month? Where were we successful with our money and our finances last month? And spend a little bit of time reflecting on that, celebrating the positives, celebrating a win, and it sets the tone for a better conversation moving forward, which gets us to number 2. Recenter on your shared goals, values, and visions. Start by going back and saying, are these still the things that are important to us? Are these still the things that we want to accomplish? Are we still on the same page together with what we want to do with our money? Because that's what's going to guide the rest of the conversation. As you get into the conversation around numbers and finances and the dollar signs, once those start showing up, You want to look at them through the lens of here's why we're doing these things. Our goal was to make sure that we could pay for our kids' college and their education. That becomes the lens through which the rest of the conversation flows. So you started with the positive, you've re-centered on your shared goals, values, and visions, and you've created a lens for the rest of the conversation, which takes us to step number 3, which is where we start addressing the money and getting to the financial part of this conversation. Now, this is gonna look a little bit different for everybody because everybody's situation is different. They're working towards different things, but some of the common questions that often arise in these conversations when it comes to money is, what are the unexpected or unplanned for expenses that we may have coming up? What do we have coming up that we need to put on the radar so we can start planning and budgeting for it? Another one might be, how are we doing progressing towards our goals? Are we on track? Do we need to make adjustments? You do have to take some time to talk about the money and the finances in your household. And then once you've done that, you move on to the 4th and final step, which we'll call ending with a bang, by finding small wins or small things you can do that can create momentum moving forward. And so you can look at your situation and the conversation you've just had and say, what's one small thing we want to focus on this month or this quarter that'll help us build momentum in the right direction? Maybe one thing you celebrated at the beginning of this conversation was the fact that you were able to reduce the spending that you had been doing to an amount that you were comfortable with. So now that you've saved more, you can say, all right, maybe now that we have that done, let's figure out how we can start putting more money away for retirement or in a savings fund or for college education. But what's one small thing you can do today to improve your trajectory in the future? So those are the 4 steps. Start with a positive, recenter on goals, values, and vision, then address the money, and finally end with a bang by focusing on a small win that you can accomplish as soon as possible. Now that we've been through the feel and the format, you have everything you need to have a money date. So I'm going to challenge you. Normally, you'd probably be tempted to let this video end, click out of the browser, and go back to your daily routine, your normal life. But I'm going to challenge you as soon as this is over to schedule your first money date. Come up with a fun name. Come up with a fun way to do it and put it on the calendar so you can have your first money date that lead to less stressful conversations where you're actually growing your wealth and building your relationship together at the same time. As always, if you have any questions, reach out to your advisor and let them know. Until next time, stay wise and well.